everybody. And we're back. In person. Live. No, not actually.
Are we actually... Are we on camera?
We're on camera.
Oh, okay. Is that the camera right there?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
There goes the cat.
Achoo!
Bless you. Well, this is off to a rollicking good start, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. So, some of you may know, if you care to watch our videos, that our last episode for the season came out last week. So we're filling some time so I can build more of a backlog. Because I'm a shitty editor.
She's
I have
also
a cat.
short.
Fuck you.
You wanted to sit in that chair.
I did. My ass hurts.
But that's for totally unrelated
Unrelated
reasons.
reasons. Anyways, so we thought we'd film a couple sets of episodes talking about some of our favorite animated movies. And, you know, who could talk about their favorite anime movies without talking about Ghibli?
Yeah.
So we all just sat down in extremely uncomfortable chairs, except for Knick Knack. Fuck you.
I melted.
To watch Laputa, Castle in the Sky, the 1986 Japanese animated fantasy adventure film.
It's really funny because the cadence in your voice, it's so easy to tell when you went from just improvising your lines to reading from a script.
Look, I've got the Wikipedia page up because for this first video we're going to talk about the actual technicalities of the movie. So this is the first movie that was produced by Studio Ghibli, under the name Studio Ghibli. Technically, most people count Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind as the first Ghibli movie, but even though it was produced by the same people that co-founded Ghibli, it was released under a different production company at the time. So this is the first official Studio Ghibli movie in all of their film work. It was also, at the time it was created and filmed, the most expensive animated movie to ever have been made.
Was it?
Yeah, it cost the studio about $3 million to make. And it did box office about $16 million all totaled. Obviously, that's for 1986, so...
Adjust for inflation.
Yep, adjust for inflation. But it was a very... It was a very high-earning movie for a Japanese animation movie at the time. Although it was, I believe, topped in the next year or two by, like, another animated movie. Also, besides the fact that there is a new person who you've never seen in the form of Bakaj, we have our guest stars today, Loki and Princess Peaches.
This cat is clawing the shit out of my pants.
Yeah, she does that.
This cat just discovered it can eat its own collar.
So,
That's it's trying to eat its own tag. Oh my god. Yeah,
so
anyway.
this movie is kind of the inspiration for a lot of following media due to its like pioneering work in steampunk and dieselpunk. Which
I can
to
name
be
2 stories off the top of my head that are just Castle in the Sky.
same. Some of them aren't even Japanese.
No.
Yeah.
It's... We were talking about that earlier, though, is that you can clearly see that in a lot of Ghibli movies that Miyazaki really likes steampunk aesthetic. Like, even Howl's Moving Castle, there's the whole boiler room where they heat up all the bathwater.
Well, and
it's just this giant...
Yeah, in Howl's Moving Castle, you can see the steampunk elements throughout all of the moving castle, and then all of the ships and flying machines and that sort of thing, and the cars.
I said Spirited Away, right?
No, you said Howl's Moving Castle.
Okay, sorry, that's what I meant. Spirited Away. In the boiler room when they're heating up all the bathwater, it's just this giant, like, nightmare contraption.
Yeah. Oh my fucking god. It would be me. It would be me to forget to turn off my phone.
I'm doing that right now. Phone is put away.
I know mine's off. Mine went off. During the middle of
Please
the movie,
silence
but it
your
vibrated.
cell phones now.
Probably should have done that before we recorded. But yeah, that's what I meant to say was Spirited Away.
I kind of wish mine went off in the middle of recording. It's the Wilhelm scream.
That's actually pretty good. I like that. I guess I'm trying to think like any Ghibli movies that don't have that kind of, or at least one aesthetic.
I think
like,
there's
quite a few of them.
Yeah, like The Tale of Princess Kaguya doesn't have that.
Well, yeah.
But that's also not Miyazaki.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think Princess Mononoke does.
No, you get a
Princess
little bit of...
Mononoke does in the Iron Village.
Yeah.
You've
Not
got a little...
steampunk.
Not-
Not so much
Not
steampunk.
quite, but it's pushing
Steampunk.
as much as it can.
Yeah.
Yeah, like like I get the feeling Miyazaki really likes the a steampunk kind of aesthetic.
It's an aesthetic choice, and here's the thing. Speaking in terms of just the aesthetics of this movie, like the technicals and stuff, a lot of the places in this movie are supposed to be like animated versions of when he visited Wales and visited like a coal mining area in Wales, and he actually experienced a coal miners' strike when he was there. And then, you know, his own experiences. I mean, you look at later films like Porco Rosso, which is it's got that similar kind of techno-punk. And it's not always necessarily like steampunk, which is why I think some other people will call it diesel punk as well. But it's just like this alternative evolution of technology.
Yeah.
Like, arguably, at times, further ahead than us, and yet further behind
I
us.
think Bocage in the middle of the movie literally said, "I hate that we never got Sky Pirates."
Yeah, it's just like not in movies, just in real life. Like sky
IRL.
pirates were never a thing. And like, do you guys remember there was it during the like late '80s or something that was like the big thing in like fantasy? It was like the like '80s and '90s, like that was the big thing in like fantasy, like sci-fi fantasy things like that was like sky piracy.
Yeah, I think you're right. And then you
Yeah.
get stuff like Treasure Planet,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and even at times Atlantis. Disney's Atlantis has elements of that.
Not sky crime, but
Well,
you know.
the use of alternative vehicles from a different technological
Yeah,
format.
that's
to
very
explore
like
the sky.
that's also kind of steampunky because like you know a lot of the vehicles and ships and things like that are
Well,
boiler.
Here's
like,
the thing. Here's the
have like
thing.
boiler contraptions that give them power.
Well, here's the thing. So we say steampunk, right? And steampunk is a very specific Victorian aesthetic in which you're using like steam and copper and bronze to make a lot of stuff. But when you look at like Atlantis or Laputa, it is steampunk in a sense, but often it has elements of like I want to say like the plot element of like an earlier utopian civilization that uses some other energy form.
Yeah. When you say, but the whole idea of the aesthetic of OW. Yeah, the aesthetic of OW, of steampunk, is less so much Victorian era and more of the Industrial Revolution, which did take place relatively at the same time. But it's supposed to be more of like, what if the Industrial Revolution just kept expanding outwards?
Yeah.
Which is where you get all the giant machinery and things
Yeah.
like that, and like, you know, the airships, etc.
So the technology, right, that they use in steampunk aesthetic comes from the Industrial Revolution, but often the fashion and culture then conversely come from the Victorian era, which was contemporary to it.
Mm-hmm.
At least when we see it, but it makes for beautiful scenes inside the movie, right? Like, I love the way that Studio Ghibli animates kind of their like big ships and stuff, because they just make it look so much more natural.
Impractical.
Yeah, impractical but natural.
Yeah, I don't know. The thing that I've noticed, well, I'm thinking primarily Castle in the Sky and Howl's Moving Castle. The military airships, they make no practical sense as to how they would work, and they look like they're the kind of things that if you made them in real life, they would collapse underneath their own weight.
Oh, of course. So we watched the version on HBO Max, and
Which was the English localized version.
yes, so
specifically.
it was the Disney version, not the earlier British version. And then the other thing is, apparently, and I didn't know this, but apparently in the different versions available, there are also different soundtracks. So apparently the original movie score was only like 60 minutes long or something, and when Disney readapted it, Joe Hisaishi redid it to be almost a 90-minute like symphony track, with the approval of Studio Ghibli at the time.
Okay.
And because we watched the Disney version, we got the readapted soundtrack, which is what HBO Max has. But if you watch it when it's available on Netflix, or where it's available on Netflix, is that my dude?
Yeah, just adjusting.
On Netflix, their Japanese version has the original Japanese score, and then their English version has the Disney score, but they also don't offer subtitles on their English version, which is interesting.
If you need them.
That said, I don't think the UK version is actually available in the West at all, because it's in Netflix everywhere else.
Yeah, if you had, I suppose if you owned a copy of the original British version, you would have a copy, but it's not really used because the Disney version is more polished.
That's why you should use our code for NordVPN.
At NordVPN, if you want to sponsor us, we're willing to sell out.
I mean, or Raid Shadow Legends. If you're good enough for Jeff Goldblum, you're good enough for us.
Don't discredit Jeff Goldblum.
Jeff Goldblum did a Raid Shadow Legends commercial on TikTok. I've seen it 4 times.
I don't care. You don't disrespect Jeff Goldblum. That guy was in The Fly, and he was amazing.
So, this movie also won a shit ton of awards.
I'm not surprised.
When it came out. It won the Ofuji Noburo Award from the Mainichi Film Awards. It got first place in the PIA 10 Best Films of the Year, first place in Japanese movies from like 10 different things. It was in the Anime Grand Prix, all sorts of stuff. And I think, honestly, I will say the soundtrack at times seems a little disjointed from what's happening. Like, there were a few times where, like, the soundtrack was, like, all peppy and shit, and they were, like, running from explosions that were killing hundreds of people.
I remember when we watched the Japanese version, it was
A little better.
Yeah, I think it played with motifs a little bit more, but I could be wrong.
I own the Japanese version as well. But I went to Max because I thought it would be easier. You can purchase the Japanese versions on Google Play at the moment, I believe, in the US. For now, at least. Who knows how long that's going to last.
Yeah, the one we watched today is the only one I've ever actually seen. But yeah, I did kind of notice that where they have like a big stinger moment where it's like there's a reveal or something, and it's just dead silent.
I think that's because
I was wondering if that was like on purpose or if that was it was just like, well, we're out of music, we'll just leave this silent.
I feel like there were at least 1 or 2 parts where there was purposeful total silence, but I think some of the disjointedness may come from the changing of the soundtrack with the different versions. Although I could not be sure. In terms of animation quality, this is way better than you would expect from a 1986 movie.
Oh, yeah.
And to be fair, I have no clue if the Max version has been remastered, and it's entirely possible that this movie has been remastered in the copy I own, which I bought in 2020, or in the HBO Max version. But even so, like, the animation is still stunning. You can definitely see its age, and you can see that it's really where Ghibli is getting its, like, first feet. There's still some, like, awkward moments with the way characters are drawn. Some stuff doesn't quite come out exactly looking right, like when you think about the later movies in the film works, but...
Well, it's very much a Ghibli venture, because, and I'm not saying this to disrespect, I'm just saying that many Ghibli movies have a problem where the message of the movie is about as subtle as a brick to the face.
That's true, and we're going to get into that in the next episode when we talk about plot and characters and shit.
But production-wise, the movie's gorgeous looking.
It is written and directed by Hayao Miyazaki, produced by Isao Takahata, who is another founding member of Studio Ghibli.
Gotcha.
So it is kind of the big name, you know what I mean? I'm not mad. I certainly... This was not the first Ghibli movie I ever watched. I think I watched Spirited Away before this. And maybe Mononoke as well, and Howl's Moving Castle for sure.
Ponyo
was your first, really?
Yep.
I think my first one was either Princess Mononoke or My Neighbor Totoro.
Mine was Spirited Away.
I remember I watched a lot of them with my family. I still have conversations with my roommate about how amazing Prince Mononoke is. Not just from production to story to design to all of that. It's Prince Mononoke is, I think, arguably the magnum opus of the studio.
I mean, that's my favorite Ghibli movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say I've seen Ponyo like 5 times, and I finished Ponyo maybe once, if not none.
I remember I can't remember who it was I was talking to, and I said, like, do you ever get like weirded out by Ponyo? The fact that Ponyo is basically like an apocalypse, and everyone's super happy and peppy. No one's bothered by the fact that like everyone there's like it's basically it's like turning into Waterworld, and no one's really bothered by that.
So I've never seen Ponyo.
Yeah, that happens.
Yeah, that's one of the Ghibli movies I have yet to see. I've seen a lot of the newer movies.
If you watch the English dub, you get to see Liam Neeson trying to voice act, and it's actually pretty amazing because he's trying really hard, but it comes off really strange.
I could see that.
That's also in this. I'm not sure if that's a character or production thing.
Production, if we're talking about the actual voice actors. So when Disney redid the dubbing, right? Mark Hamill is one of the.
Mark Hamill is Muska, the villain.
Yeah, Jim Cummings is the general. What did I? Vander.
I know Andy Dick is in the film. I'm not sure who he plays, but yeah, this was post Star Wars Mark Hamill and pre-Batman Mark Hamill. So this is that weird gray area.
Pazu is voiced by James Vanderbeek. Who else did you say was in it?
Andy Dick was in it. I didn't
see plays Henry.
I don't remember.
I think
Henry.
That's one of the sons.
Yeah.
Of
yeah, but
the lady. Yeah.
Voice acting though for anime movie, it's actually not too bad. It's not bad.
It's not the worst. I will say Disney did make an executive decision to get older voice actors for the 2 main characters to try to, this was to try to imply that they were in their late teens to young adults rather than preteens as they are in the Japanese movie, which I can understand why, because at certain points of this movie, in the Western world for sure is more socially acceptable to have an older character than it is in Japan, obviously.
Well, we also mentioned that while we were watching, you brought that up when we were watching it. All 3 of us were like, "Yeah, it didn't work," because you can clearly tell they're children.
No, yeah,
because they look like children. They're tiny.
Yeah, it's. Oh god, I actually want to see that now. I just want to see. I'm not sure if you guys ever saw the Venture Brothers, but the character Dr. Girlfriend is this very attractive woman, but sounds like this. It's got like a man's voice. It's clearly a man doing the voice, and it doesn't even hide the fact that it's a man. They just run with it. And she's one of the best characters, and I'm like, I kind of want to see them do that in this movie now, where it's like, no, we got to make him try to look older, so you just got like a 40-year-old man doing Patsu's voice. I think it'd be great.
Speaking of things we mentioned during the movie, you can also definitely see character templates in this movie that were reused and became a little more detailed and polished in later movies.
Yeah, a lot of the same costuming, things like that. Like the Sons in the beginning when they're wearing the white suits, you mentioned that's just the Scarecrow's suit.
At the end of Howl's Moving Castle. And, I think, at least in the case of Howl's Moving Castle and Laputa, is they both take place in this sort of fantasy steampunk-esque world that doesn't really have a clearly delineated time comparatively to like a historical period that they would be dressed in. So they're very similar, and they just kind of go with like a simple women in slightly old-fashioned dresses and men in suits, because suits historically have been used in men's fashion for the last 300 years.
Well, not just that, but I'm not sure, are we using stage names or does it matter?
Always. When recording.
Yeah. So it's Knick-Knack, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, so Knick-Knack pointed out the little girl in the little girl that shows up a couple times is clearly just looks like Ponyo. It's the same dress, the same hairstyle, almost the same haircut too, I think.
I can't comment on the hair color, but it looked vaguely similar to me, but I'm colorblind.
Yeah, and also the one scene where the one of the few times you see Dola in a skirt, she just looks like old Sophie from Howl's Moving Castle, so it's very much the same.
Chin's a little bit more square, but I think that was just an aesthetic choice.
There's a lot of similarities, but that's just kind of that might just be a Miyazaki thing.
Yeah.
Because
I think
Miyazaki
it's-
does a lot of the character designs,
I think
doesn't
it's a little of both. I think that this is very obviously Miyazaki's drawing style, right? Like the way that Miyazaki likes to make his movies. But also, I think that obviously with this movie, you know, after Nausicaa, he was pioneering a lot of designs, and then they kind of got reused and polished. Maybe not intentionally into later movies, but maybe just because, you know, because. Honestly, like I said, there are a lot of characters who just look like other characters.
Oh yeah, it's reuse. What do they call it in animation? Just reused assets.
Oh shit, we missed the completely obvious one. Fucking Sheeta. She looks just like Kiki from Kiki's Delivery Service with different hair.
She kind of does.
Wearing the same dress at the beginning.
I actually haven't seen that one yet.
Kiki's
So
Livery
you're gonna
Service?
see it in a few days.
I love Kiki's Livery Service.
It's
That
one
was
of
a
my
movie.
favorites.
I'm looking forward to rewatching that again because you guys said like, okay, which one of these do you want to be on for? And I'm like, definitely Kiki because I haven't seen Kiki since I was a kid, and I remember loving that movie. And I got a funny story to tell about that when we do the recording for it.
Yeah. No, I love Kiki, and is definitely
Fucking cat master over here.
You can't match my power. I am dual wielding cats here.
those two are never calm together. I swear to fucking God.
He's got Big Daddy energy.
Jesus fucking Christ. But yeah, no, just like cut the hair like it is at the end, and then the dress from the beginning is Kiki's dress. It's the same dress they use for Kiki.
Yeah, well,
the
again,
blue
that's
shapeless shirt dress.
well, that's
yeah.
also. I think that's also an animating thing because you know the dress has basically no form to it, so it's really easy to draw. It's really easy to color, and it's really easy to animate. And that way you can have more
and to be honest,
budget for other animation things.
To be honest,
that's kind of how you
Miyazaki-
save a penny, kind of thing.
Yeah, but Miyazaki also likes to put his female main characters into things that will flow in the wind, like, dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be honest, he does it with Sophie, too.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, honestly, I have zero complaints about... not any real, like, serious complaints about the animation or the soundtrack of this movie.
The only thing I can really say that I think is a problem is that the movie, like, Nick Nack and I were talking about that, is that, like, this movie is, like, breakneck speed from the beginning.
That gets more into the plot, though.
Yeah, it feels like we got to get this, like, all this stuff set up immediately so we can actually start doing the movie we want to do, and so they rush through, like, pretty much almost every single, like, exposition point within the first 40 minutes?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, the scene that happens in every movie, you know, the third act, like, no, the hero is beaten down and they have to pick themselves back up and they have to save the day, kind of, you know, where they reach their lowest point, which is usually the ending of the second act or something like that. That happens 40 minutes into a 2-hour movie.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, yeah, but yeah, other than that, I mean, movie's amazing. Love
Yeah.
it.
So, with that being said, I want to get into story, plot, and characters and all that stuff. So, we'll see you back in a couple days to talk about that. Like, comment, subscribe.
This cat is sitting on the other cat's head. I just want to point that out.
I know.